Hello guys, in this video we're going to talk about the higher worksheet 1.2b. So before we do the exercise, we're going to do some quick revision on what we learned today. So if you want to calculate the compound interest, you first of all need to find out the amount that can be using the principal times 1 plus r% and all the thing to the power of n. So what's the meaning of the big r%, which is the interest rates per annum, which means the interest rate in the whole year, and then n is the number of years that you want to deposit your money into the bank. Okay, but sometimes we're not only to compound yearly, we may also got three different cases. For example, compound half yearly, compound quarterly, compound monthly. So because we're changing the compound period, which means that we need to change the interest rates per period and then the number of the period that we are really calculating to. So the interest rate per half yearly is actually using our big R. Big R means the interest rates per annum. So we're using the big R% divided by 2, that can calculating the half year interest rates, isn't it? So the number of period that we need to calculate is using the big N times 2, because N is the number of years, and in 1 year it's actually got 2 half years. So if we're calculating N times 2 is the total number of period that we're going to use if that is compound half yearly. And now if we're changing to the next cases, compound quarterly, which means that we need to use the R% to divide by 4, because in the whole year, we got 4 quarters, isn't it? So the interest rate per quarter is going to be using the interest rate per annum divided by 4. And the number of period is going to be using the N, the big N, the number of years times 4. Okay, so similarly for the compound monthly, we can using our R% divided by 12, which means that we are calculating the interest rates per month, and the number of period during the N years is going to be using the N times 12. Okay, so that's the whole thing we need to understand by calculating our compound interest. And then if you want to just want the interest, you can using the amount minus the principal to calculate out. Okay, so now we can do the question 1. Wilson deposits 74,200 in the bank at an interest rate of 4.2 per annum for 3.5 years, compound half yearly, and then find the amount of an interest that he will receive. So again, we need to write something down. We need to write our principal, we need to write down our interest rate per period, and then the number of period that we are calculating, and then the interest. So the principal is going to be 74,200, and then the R is 4.2, isn't it? It's not really, because the 4.2 is per annum, but now we are going to calculating the half year interest rate, which means that we're using the 4.2% divided by 2. As again, in the whole year we got 2 half year, so that we're using the interest rate per annum divided by 2 to calculating the interest rates per half year. So n, the small n, which is the number of period during this 3.5 years, is going to be 3.5 times 2. That's equal to 7. So we need to compound 7 times. Okay, so the interest is something that we need to find. So before we find out the interest, we need to using our amount is equal to the principal times 1 plus r% to the power of n. So that we can using the amount is equal to 74,200 times 1 plus 4.2% divided by 2 to the power of n, so which is 7.5 times 2 give you 7. So if you use your calculator, the amount should be equal to 85,819 dot something, but the question is asking to the nearest dollar, so we're just using to this. So that's to the nearest dollar. Okay, so the interest is equal to the amount minus the principal, so it's equal to 85819 minus the principal, which is 74,200. So then the answer should be equal to 11619. Is to the nearest dollar as well. Okay, so that's for question 1. Alright, so moving to question 2, since they deposit sum of money, so they're saying that deposit sum of money, which means that the P, the principal, is actually unknown, and then the interest rate is 10.5%. The interest rate is 10.5%, compound monthly, and then the interest received after 1 year and 4 months is this amount. So now we know the interest. We're going to find out the principal. So we're trying to write down R and the interest. So interest, we know that is 64167, and then the small r, which means the interest rate per month, is actually using the whole year interest rates divided by 12, so that we can get the interest rate per month. And then we think about in 1 year and 4 months, it's actually how many months? 1 year is actually 12 months, and then plus 4 months is actually 16 months. Then what's the relationship between the principal and the interest? We can use saying the amount is equal to the principal plus the interest, isn't it? And then the principal is actually equal to the amount minus the interest, but the amounts can be using as the p times 1 plus r% to the power of n minus the interest as well. So that we have p equal to the whole thing. P is something that we want to find, so that we need to put p to the same side to make it to be the subject, so that we have the interest is equal to p times 1 plus r% to the power of n minus p. So you move this minus I to the left hand side, becomes the positive. You move this p to the left hand side, become the negative. So now we can take out the p as the common factor. So we have the interest is equal to the p taking out, so we have 1 plus r% to the power of n minus 1. So once again, in this part, we take out the p, so what we're left is just 1 plus r% to the power of n, and then if we just have one p, and when you take that out, it's just 1 left. Okay, so now we can substitute the whole thing. We have the I is equal to 64167, is equal to the p as the unknown, and then 1 plus r%, which is 10.5% divided by 12, the whole thing to the power of 16, and then 1 to minus 1. So if you're using a calculator, you can calculating the whole thing, this whole part, and then divide by 64167, so that you can get the p is actually equal to 429,000. It's asking you to give in to the nearest dollar, so that's our answer. So to the nearest integer. So please pause the video if you don't understand. So try to listen to what I said again. So just follow the rules, follow the steps, and then you probably can get the answer by yourself. So now we're going to do the question 3. So it's actually comparing something, isn't it? So Daisy borrows the same amount of money from Bank A and Bank B. So Daisy borrows some money, which means that the principal is an unknown. So we don't know the principal. But in this case, we have Bank A and Bank B, which means that there's actually 2 cases. So we consider about the Bank A together with the Bank B. So we consider about the P, the small r, the interest rate per period, and then the number of periods is calculating, and then we have our interest, right? So we're trying to fill in this form so that the principal is actually the same, so we just write P and P here. And then we have the Bank A, the interest rate is 13%, is compound half yearly, which means that interest rate is going to be 13% divided by 2. And then for Bank B, it's offer an interest rate of 12% per quarter. It's compound quarterly, so it's going to be 12% divided by 4, because in the whole year we got 4 quarters, isn't it? So which bank requires Daisy to pay more interest for borrowing the money for 1 year? So if only for 1 year, which means that the number of periods for compound half yearly is going to be 1 times 2, giving you 2. And then if you compound quarterly, it's going to be 1 times 4, giving you 4 periods. And the interest is something that we want to find. Okay, so now we try to find out for Bank A. For Bank A, we have the amount is equal to the principal times 1 plus r% to the power of n, isn't it? So the amount is equal to the principal is unknown, and then we times 1 plus 13% divided by 2 to the power of 2, so that the amount is going to be equal to 1.134225p. So using a calculator to calculate this part, you can get this answer. So that interest is equal to the A minus P. So it's equal to 1.134225p minus P, and then give you the answer is 0.134p if we correct to 3 significant figures. And then if we calculate for Bank B as well, so for Bank B, we have the amount is going to be equal to the principal times 1 plus r% to the power of n. We're using the similar formula, so that the amount is equal to the P times 1 plus r%, which is the interest rate per quarter, so going to be 12% divided by 4. And then the small n, which is the number of period, is going to be 4 times period we introduced, so that using the calculator to calculate it, the amount is going to be equal to 0.1255. Sorry, it's is equal to 1.1255p, so that by using the I is equal to a minus p is going to be equal to 1.1255p minus the p, giving you 0.1255p. So you can see from here, the bank A to require 0.134p, but for bank B is only 0.1255p. So for bank B, the interest is actually less than the bank A, but they're asking about which bank need to pay more interest, so that we can say that the bank A need to pay more interest. We just compare these two numbers because p is actually a positive integer, so no matter 0.3134 times p or 0.1255 times p, we only need to consider about the number in front of them, then we can understand the interest about which bank is higher. Okay, so that's for this video. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask me via the WhatsApp.